to say something about Mel first, and then.
I just want to make a statement for a lot of you know this, but I think North Reading as a town is in much better shape than most of the communities in this state. And a big part of that rests on the selectmen's shoulders and the town administrators' shoulders. A number of years ago, I think Bob was involved in forming this town finance planning committee, which is the chair and vice chair of each committee in town, elected committee in town, plus the finance committee and the superintendent and the business manager, et cetera. We, you know, the selectmen has conservatively managed our finances, and we are in much better shape. Of course, the snow is probably going to eat away a lot of our free cash.
We might get state relief.
That's unfortunate. We're going to get state relief.
I have a holdout for that. That's one of my takeaways.
But honestly, if you look at our budgets, yes, and I was talking to Carl before, there's going to be some gaps, and I don't think we're going to try to panic everybody, but it's much better than what I'm hearing from other communities. So I just, you know, I'm not telling you that everything's rosy, and no, we don't have the best of everything in our school system. I can assure you of that. But for what we have for funding, I think the selectmen and town administrator, working with all the other boards, have done a great job in managing what we have. And I just, you know, there's only so much the state and the feds can do. We have to manage our own house. And I think that through the leadership of the selectmen and the TA, we do a pretty good job of that. So,
Marse, you wanted to say?
Yes. I guess, Brad, just a couple of thoughts. It's you know, to corral. It would be nice to find an umbrella organization that brought all different organizations together and corralled them into one list, but probably not very, you know, very practical for the near term. But I would ask that the legislature, or say that it's to some extent the legislature's responsibility to look at some of the priorities and pick out a few. Right. When you said that the early local aid resolution failed, and I understand that you were for that, why, if you set a floor, if you're conservative, who does that hurt? It only helps every one of the 351 cities and towns. So again, I said we propose it in sort of the least restrictive format, which is it's a rule. You know, getting over that, and you know, or I would say health insurance. If the legislature hasn't heard that health insurance is up there in the top 10, you know, or top 5. Right. You know, is an umbrella organization needed to tell them that? So I guess I would ask that you to reflect maybe to us a little more on something like the local aid resolution.
And I'm not saying that it has to be an umbrella organization, but there are issues that we get that says, you know, all these organizations identify this as the #1 issue. And you'll get this, you know, bill 1, 2, 3, 4, and they'll list 80 different groups. So that are on maybe, you know, that piece of paper, and then every group that sends something independently identifies that as the #1 issue. It isn't sort of just saying, well, we need to create a new organization. So yes, I belong to STAND, but for purposes of this issues, I belong to SIT. It's putting everything, you know, it's basically saying, look, when we're all advocating, we can all agree that within our own organization, we've identified this as the #1 issue. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying create another organization so that another colorful piece of paper can get its way to my inbox. But I'm saying that when a lot of times you hear, it's like, well, okay, this isn't important, and if these three are not important to them, but they are over here, do they offset each other, and sort of we argue ourselves to non-resolution or inaction? I agree with you, but I don't, I'm not sure everybody sees the healthcare issue the same way. I think some people honestly see it as there is something in place right now that if people can reach resolution, then something can happen.
But what about something on the local aid? Why? That was, I know you said that was along party lines. What
I can't fathom, because the argument was, well, it's a difficult time, we shouldn't box ourselves in. And again, I mean, we've offered in the budget a couple times in the past, well, if we get more money in than we're planning on, can we make an agreement now that half of it will go to local aid up to a certain amount? Well, we don't want to do that because we don't want to tie our hands. I honestly, I don't understand that. I really don't understand that. I know that, and I get that if, hey, we're going to give every extra dollar to local aid, okay, because there are going to be some other demands that at a state level that we provide services for that we're going to have to cut back on. But I don't understand that. I really don't understand that. I mean,
I don't either.
I don't. I'd like to give you an answer. I don't understand it.
I just wanted to make a comment, Brad. I know your roots are in local government, so this isn't intended as a comment to you. But I know that a lot of the legislators have the view that in theory, anything is possible. For example, reaching a solution on health insurance. In theory, it's all possible. If you read the law, it says you can negotiate it. But the practicality is you have to offer something in return, and it has to be substantial. So the thought that in theory anything is possible, is that Jeff, if I jump off the Empire State Building and flap my arms fast enough, in theory I should be able to fly. But the reality is I'm not going to be able to fly. And that we face the same dilemma, that the way the law is structured, it doesn't realize the dilemma that we face as cities and towns. So I would just ask that the legislature, again, not intending to you, be aware of the fact that we're hurting, and in theory, perhaps we need broad relief to realize that we need relief and we need it now, and the current structure doesn't allow us that flexibility.
I would agree with that. Anything else, sir? You're right on time right now.
So do we lobby the people that aren't for what we want? Thanks. Actually, I just want to touch on a few things that Mal pointed out and some things that were said. You know, North Reading does continue to flourish because of its dedicated town leaders, inspired educators, and deeply committed parents. And again, thanks to everyone who came here. But I do want to point out, too, that as a citizen in North Reading for the last 11 years, as having 4 children in the school system, up until 2 months ago, I was the atypical North Reading resident. I went about my business, I paid my taxes, I assumed our school system was wonderful. I bumped into Deanna at a PA meeting. I got roped into an NRUE meeting. I sat there.
It usually gets traced back to you, doesn't it? Cause of a lot of issues.
My point is, I went to Deanna's house thinking, all right, we're going to enhance an already great school system. I'm going to have a bake sale, and we're going to get, you know, other things in, nice to haves. And after 20 minutes of sitting there with my jaw on the floor, I realized that we are actually, in spite of what we have, the tools we have to work with, we are doing a phenomenal job. But that is not going to last forever. We are giving our kids level services that are strictly core services. We are not preparing them to go out there and compete globally. We are a great school system as far as the standard goes, but my thought was we needed to enhance a great school system. Now I'm looking at it as we need to actually maintain or improve our current school system.
And let me just say this. I think that organizations like NRUE or the PTOs or this and that, you know, they advocate for a certain set of issues, sometimes with success, sometimes maybe not with the success they'd like to have. But I think it creates an involvement in the town, or maybe in their kids' lives, and that I think in and of itself pays dividends beyond the issues. Whether it's friendships, it's you know, learning about what their kids are doing, getting more involved in it. I think it's really, I mean, I think that in and of itself pays a dividend in terms of, I think, your kids' education and the future in the town. And so I think even if you don't maybe meet with the success on an issue, I think the advocacy in and of itself is a positive.
Right, and that's building on what I said, you know, get yourself involved, make yourself informed, go to a Board of Selectmen meeting, a school committee meeting, town meeting, do these things, and these are the things that I'm just starting to recently get more involved in. So I think everyone, you know, we are in charge of our own destiny at the local level. We look to the legislator, but...
Town meeting is in June, the snow should be gone, so there should be...
Yeah, we have one in March, March 14th.
Not at this rate.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Might still be there.
March 14th.
March is a lot, yeah, March is, you know, you won't have any parking, you'll have to shuttle people.
Does anyone else have any closing comments? Deanna, do you want to make any comments?
No, the only thing I would like to say is, as far as the takeaways, certainly we will work very closely with our school committee and our Board of Selectmen, as we have in the past, and with you and with Senator Tarr, to refine our lists, work with other organizations to make sure it's, you know, top priorities, our specific asks. And I would just ask everyone here that when we determine what those priorities are, the next time you see, whether it's a petition or something, or a communication from Stanford Children, and it asks you to forward it to 5 friends, now you can see how important it is to not forward it to 5 friends in North Reading, because we already know the strength of our communication, but we need to make sure that Reading and Haverhill and Lawrence and Situate and Rowley and all those other communities where we have friends see the benefit of doing what we're doing and inviting their legislators to in-district meetings and getting their citizens to town meetings and things like that, so that we can have a broader reach and a stronger voice. So, thank you very much for being here. Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks for having me.
Thank
and
you.
Stay in touch. Deanna will email on
We
behalf of you.
will.